Venezuela sent a shipment of 30 tons of humanitarian aid in solidarity with the people of Haiti. China responds to the U.S. accusations of bullying in the region and said the North American nation conducts with political hypocrisy. Israeli forces murder a teenage Palestinian near the city of Lampedusa in the occupied West Bank. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. And now we begin with the news. The government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela sent a shipment of 30 tons of humanitarian aid in solidarity with the people of Haiti, affected by a devastating 7.2 magnitude earthquake registered on August 14th. The information was released by the Vice President of the Government for Citizen Security, Remigio Ceballos, from the Simón Bolívar International Airport in Maiquería. The shipment contained medicines, food, personal hygiene kits, non-perishable food, medical equipment, blankets, mosquito nets, drinking water, and diapers. The Vice President also said that Venezuela will continue sending the necessary supplies to help in the Haitian people's recovery. The Colombian student leader Esteban Mosquera, who lost an eye during a protest in December 2018, was killed by unknown persons in Popayan, the departmental capital of the department of Cauca. Witnesses explained that men on a motorcycle shot him a few meters from the house of the young music student. Through social networks, social movements denounce the assassination and stress they will not tolerate any act that threatens the life and integrity of the young people. They also demanded the prosecutor's office and the police to carry out all actions that allow the capture and prosecution of those responsible for the cowardly act. Mosquera had lost his eye during the last day of student protests in 2018, in which they demanded greater investment by the government for public universities. In El Salvador, an investigation disclosed that the government of Nayib Bukele entered in and covered negotiations with street gangs. The alternative media project El Faro revealed on Monday that Bukele's government held negotiations with the Mara Salvatrucha and Barrio 18 street gangs looking to reduce the number of homicides and try to hide the evidence. Also, El Faro published that the head of the correctional centers of El Salvador, Osiris Luna, ordered to take away hundreds of novelty books and computers from maximum security prisons. Until April 2021, the attorney's office, led by Raul Melara, conducted the investigations, but in May, the officialist assembly substituted him for Rodolfo Delgado, who later on dismantled the special task group that came across the evidence. On Monday, Bolivian President Luis Arce Catacora said that justice is the only way towards national reconciliation during an act at the Army General Staff, referring to the current process on behalf of the victims of the coup d'etat of 2019 under the government of Yanin Áñez.
The correct, real and concrete way to pacify that we have is the application of justice, as requested by the families of the people who have lost life, because here we are not talking about the fact that the coup simply left economic damage. It left a debt with 38 families in the country, and the only way to repair and pacify this is with the application of justice as soon as possible.
The Bolivian head of state also referred to the economic damage caused by the government of Yanin Áñez.
The least characteristic of a right-wing government was precisely the transparency in the management of Bolivian state resources. It is enough to recall the mismanagement of the respirator issue, the assault on oil production, technology, companies and other state institutions that were the spoils of war of last year's coup d'etat in Bolivia.
A delegation of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights visited former de facto president of Bolivia, Yanin Áñez, in a prison in La Paz and recommended that strategies be implemented to prevent self-harm or suicide. Two representatives of the international organization visited Áñez in the prison where she is being held to check her state of health after it emerged that attempted to injure herself with minor arm injuries. Furthermore, authorities at the penitentiary allowed a relative to accompany her until her recovery. In this sense, prison's chief Juan Carlos Limpias stressed that Áñez's health is stable and receives the necessary attention by medical teams, and that the UN members were able to confirm where there are not human rights violations against her. On Monday, the governors of 24 Brazilian states met via video conference. These representatives agreed to send a letter to the heads of government, the branches, such as the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the Supreme Court, so that meetings can be scheduled to reduce political instability as well as to advance on agendas on interests of the states.
The agenda of the meeting of governors of Brazil, we unanimously approved, on the one hand, the commitment and pact for life, given the concern for the Delta variant and other variations, to expand vaccination so that people can have more people protected on a daily basis. And on the other hand, we are now seeking dialogue to create an environment of serenity, trust and stability in Brazil. So we approve from now on an agenda with the President of the Republic, the President of the Senate, also joining business leaders of the social movements so that we can better face and treat with priority the needs of the people.
The Ministry of Health in Chile reported a total of 260 cases of the Delta variant in the country, of which 68% correspond to travelers. The Undersecretary of Public Health, Paula Daza, indicated that of that figure, 177 are travelers and rest with community members who are not only in the metropolitan region but also throughout the country. The health authority mentioned that they had strengthened the active search for community outbreaks with the mutation PCR. The Ministry of Health also reported that the region of Arica and Paranicota will shorten the curfew hours after complying with the determined sanitary protocols. With this, only the Tarapacá and the metropolitan regions remain with the restriction measure. World Health Organization Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus denounced Tuesday the unfair global distribution of COVID-19 vaccines to Africa, adding he's disappointed by this injustice in addressing a virtual annual meeting of health ministers on the continent.
I need to tell you that the distribution of vaccines has been terribly unfair. And yesterday in my presser, I said, we're all disappointed by the injustice. More than 4.8 billion doses of vaccine have been administered globally. Just 87 million doses have been administered in the African region.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back. This Tuesday, the Chinese Foreign Ministry accused the United States of hiding behind the rhetoric of a rules-based global order to defend its own hegemonic and bullying behavior. The statements come after the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris accused Beijing of bullying in Asia.
The current events in Afghanistan clearly tell us what the rules and order the U.S. speaks of are. The U.S. can wantonly conduct military interventions in a sovereign country and does not need to be responsible for the suffering of the people in that country.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson also denounced that the U.S. government slanders the Asian giant with impunity.
The US can come and go as it wishes and doesn't need to seek the international community's opinion, not even those of its allies, in order to defend America first. The US can arbitrarily smear, suppress, coerce, and bully other countries and without paying any price. This is the order the US wants. The US is constantly attempting to use rules and order to defend its selfish bullying and hegemonic behavior, but how many people will believe them now?
In the latest 24 hours, a total of 507 migrants arrived to the small island of Lampedusa, the southernmost point of Italy, on board over 10 vessels. Italian media report that during evening hours, 272 migrants arrived in 13 vessels, who then joined the 235 that had been led to the island on Monday by port authorities' boats, after being found a few miles off the coast. Currently, there are 865 migrants in the island's sheltering center that has a capacity of 250 people. No ships of any non-government organization wander the Mediterranean Sea since the Medics Without Borders boat Geo Barents disembarked on Monday with 322 migrants at the port of Augusta in Sicily. President of the United States Joe Biden's approval rate dropped by 6 points since the crisis in Afghanistan unwound, a probe poll of the Hill-Harris consultory firm revealed on Monday. Facing criticism of his administration over the handling of the Afghan situation and also the withdrawal of troops from the Central Asian country, the approval rate fell from 55% to 49%, according to a poll based on a sample of 2,800 voters concluded last week. Previous to the crisis, the mandatory had achieved a 61% approval rate. The United States evacuated on Monday 10,900 people from Kabul, adding up to a number of 48,000 evacuees since August 14th. In Mexico, the fire, reported last Sunday on a marine platform of the Mexican oil company Pemex in the Gulf of Mexico, left 5 people dead, 6 injured, and 2 missing. The director of the state-run company, Octavio Romero Oropesa, informed on Monday that the causes of the fire in the production center, known as Kumalob SAP, are being investigated. Oropesa informed that the disaster came about when operaries of 2 companies carried out maintenance work. The fire forced the closing of 125 drilling shafts and the suspension of the 421,000 oil barrels daily production.
A fire presented itself in the Alpha Processing Center of the Compression and Electric Generation Station EQA2, where, as regretful consequences, the reports counted the death of 5 people, 6 others injured, and 2 missing.
Greece's fire department sent air and ground assets to at least 2 new fires in areas already hit by fire this summer, amid strong winds that hampered extinguishing efforts. The first one broke out in the morning of the country's second largest island, Evia, which already saw its northern area burnt this month by a fire that raged for more than 10 days. The second blaze in the area of Ilia, northwest of Athens, where a large fire was brought under control on Friday. Thousands of people have been forced to flee as the flames have ravaged forest, farmland, homes, and businesses. 1 volunteer firefighter died, and at least 4 more were hospitalized with burns. The country's firefighting capacity has been pushed to the limit, and the government called for international assistance this month, as 4 major fires burned in different parts of the country. We have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. Israeli forces murdered a teenage Palestinian near the city of Lampedusa in the occupied West Bank. Medical sources confirmed that Israeli troops killed a Palestinian teenager on Tuesday dawn at the refugee camp in Balata, east of the city of Lampedusa in the West Bank. The director of the Red Moon Emergency Unit in Lampedusa, Ahmad Hibril, said that the Israeli forces shot and killed Imad Hashashus, of age 16 years, while they conducted a detention raid on the field. The boy was transported to the surgical hospital of Rafidia, where he was declared dead minutes later. In Tunisia, President Kais Saied extended the suspension of the parliament imposed after the protests in several cities of the country in late July. The measure was said to last a month, but the extension then was deemed indefinitive. On July 25th, President Saied deposed the prime minister, suspended the powers of the People's Representatives Assembly, and seized parliamentary immunity of all members. The decision was denounced as a coup d'etat by jurors and rivals of the chief of state. In July, several cities of Tunisia where the stages of protest have demanded the deposition of the government due to the economic crisis that was aggravated by the coronavirus pandemic.
It's been 10 years that the people have been silent, and in just 1 month of parliament suspension, some are disturbed. Who are these people? The corrupt and the people who plunder the country are the ones who are disturbed.
We want him to take his time in order to appoint the right person. We have spent 10 years with ups and downs and got nothing from that. He must take his time and choose a competent person.
And Zambia's newly elected president Hakainde Hijalema on Tuesday promised to rebuild the economy and to alleviate poverty as he was sworn in following a milestone election for African opposition movements. Sporting the red and yellow colors of his United Party for National Development, President Hijalema took the oath of office in front of thousands of supporters in the Heroes Stadium in the capital, Lusaka. The head of state also vowed to restore respect for the human rights and liberties undermined by his predecessor. In his sixth bid for presidency, Hijalema defeated the incumbent Edgar Lungu by almost 1 million votes. The victory is the 17th opposition win in sub-Saharan Africa since 2015 and was achieved despite restricted campaigning and suspected rigging of favor of Lungu's party. On Tuesday, Senegal's Justice Minister Malik Sall confirmed that Hissène Habré, the former president of Chad, died at 79 in Dakar prison, where he was serving a life sentence for crimes against humanity, war crimes, and acts of torture committed between 1982 and 1990. Sentenced to life after a landmark trial, Habré spent his final years as a prisoner in Senegal, where he died in hospital, Senegalese officials confirmed. In May 2016, Habré was handed a life term for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and torture by the Extraordinary African Chambers, a tribunal created by Senegal and the African Union. The trial set a global precedent, establishing the first time that a country prosecuted a former leader of another nation for rights abuses. The sentence was upheld in 2017. The court ordered him to pay compensation to each victim who suffered rape, arbitrary detention, and imprisonment during his rule, as well as to their relatives. More news now. In Afghanistan, 20 people died and dozens were injured in the chaos brought about the Kabul International Airport. As evacuations continue, the Taliban warned that there will be consequences if the United States and the other countries do not complete their withdrawal of troops by August 31st. Thousands of citizens have invaded the grounds of the airport, trying to abandon Afghanistan due to the uncertainty spread by the rise to power of the Taliban. The security situation in the Asian country is still complicated, as Taliban combatants and foreign troops alike fire warning shots looking to deter the crowd. In this context, on the light of an attempt to extend evacuations by the Group of Seven, the spokesperson of the Taliban group, Suhail Shaheen, noted that if foreign troops remain in the country after the agreed-upon withdrawal deadline, it will be considered as a venture of prolonging the foreign invasion in the country. The White House, on the other side, admitted on Monday that Kabul's extraction operations were treated with a slow pace out of fear of unfurling trust issues with the Afghan government.
They, the foreign troops, do not give any information. They just fire warning shots and use tear gas. We've come here with legal valid documents, but they still hate us and throw us out of the airport.
During a press conference in Kabul, a spokesperson of the Taliban claimed that the United States seeks to cause instability with its chaotic withdrawal of Afghanistan.
One big problem that the city of Kabul is faced with right now is the chaos and dangerous situation we are witnessing at the Kabul airport. We know the reason behind this situation. While leaving Afghanistan, the US still wants to inflict damage and loss on this nation. Every day they encourage people by telling them they will transfer them to the US and other countries and have readied their planes. Even abroad, the people haven't been given any facilities by them.
The Taliban spokesperson Mujahid also called upon the people trying to flee Afghanistan to make them return to their homes, warranting that the Taliban will not seek retribution.
These people need compassion. We have repeatedly given them the message that they should not be scared. No one will interfere with them. They should return to their homes and be reassured. Since the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan came, one thing we comprehend is that complete security has been restored. There is no news that someone has been killed in Kabul. The situation is the same in all other provinces. There is no killing anywhere. This is a matter of pride that the bloodshed has been halted after 20 years and all elements of misery have been destroyed.
United Nations Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet voiced grave concern at the situation in Afghanistan under the Taliban, urging them to honor commitments to respect the rights of women and girls during a special session of the UN Human Rights Council on Afghanistan.
The fundamental red line will be the Taliban's treatment of women and girls and respect for their rights to liberty, freedom of movement, education, self-expression and employment, guided by international human rights norms. In particular, ensuring access to quality secondary education for girls will be an essential indicator of commitment to human rights.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.